Hello everyone, it's Xms256 here and welcome back to another Minecraft tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how you can make your own Minecraft server on your own computer. And if you have already done some research, yes, this is the complicated way, or as most people say it, with port forwarding, but I'm going to make it as simple as possible. You don't need any extra tools on your computer, you just need the Minecraft server files, and you can run it without any other tools like Hamachi or any other VPN crazy stuff. You don't need that. So I'm going to do my best to explain it as good as I can. So let's get into it. This may seem really confusing, but bear with me guys. I'm going to explain all of this. I'm just going to explain what port forwarding is, because it is not as complicated as you think it is. But you have to understand a little bit about networking to fully understand this. Basically what we have here is a home, and we have a couple of devices in that home. Let's say device 1, device 2, and your own PC. Now these numbers right here, this is what we call an IP address. Basically, if you enter this in a browser, you would go to that PC basically. It's just an internet address. But this is what we call an internal address. Basically, all the devices in your home are typically connected to one central place, which is the router. And all the connections of all the devices in that network go to the router and then go to the internet. So nothing goes directly to the internet, but it first goes to the router, then to the internet. Every device has its own IP address, which is normally given out by the router. The router decides the IP address that that device gets. And you also have another thing, which is a MAC address, which we'll get into later, which you might need. You heard me say internal IP address. These addresses right here, these are internal IP addresses. You typically have them with 192.168. Those are local IP addresses. So if your friend uses this IP address, he isn't going to go to the internet, to your router, to your PC. That's the reason why you have to port forward. If your friend enters that IP address, he's going to go to this IP address on his network. That's the difference. So what we need to do is we also have an external IP address, and the router has that external IP address. So what you need to do if you run a server, you need to give out your external IP address, and I'm going to show you how you can get that. And basically what you need to do is to port forward, which is just tell the router that you would like to send all the traffic of a specific port, which we'll cover in a second, to your own PC. So if your friend enters this IP address and a certain port after that, there's you can have a lot of ports, but there's one default port. You can set like a port where the server runs on, and then it will know that it needs to go to that server, that application, the Minecraft server basically. So if your friend enters this external IP address and the port, which is typically 25565, which we'll get into later, you have to tell the router to redirect that to your own PC and vice versa. So that is port forwarding in a nutshell. Okay, now how do we do this? First of all, you need to make some settings in your router, and that can be really complicated, but luckily there are lots of guides available. I would recommend you to ask permission before you do this, because if you live in a home, if you live with your parents, I would strongly recommend you to ask permission before you do this. Okay, so what we have to do is make some settings in the router. So how do we get to the router? Well, basically we need to know the IP address of the router. Well, that's really easy. On your keyboard you have a little Windows flag, hold that down and then press R. Then this little run window should come up. And then enter CMD, which is short for command, which will launch the command prompt. Hit enter or click OK. You'll see this little black box where you can enter commands. Now what we're going to do is enter ipconfig, and spell that right as well, and hit enter. This will come up with the configuration of all the IPs, and you can see here as well which IP address you currently have. You have to make sure you look under the right connection, basically. So I'm using wired internet, which is typically called Ethernet. If you're using Wi-Fi, it should say something different, but just look and it should be obvious which one you need here. Now look for default gateway. That is the address, the IP address of the router. And if you have multiple, just look for the 192 right here, this one. Now if you enter this in your browser address bar, you're going to go to the router settings page. Now I can't, because routers are so different, I can't explain every router and how to do all of that, because it differs so much from router to router. Luckily there are loads of guides available on the internet which explain for every router type how to port forward. So I've linked some stuff in the description, and that will take you to this page. Open ports on your router on portforward.com, and here's a really long list of all manufacturers of routers. Once you enter this IP address in your browser, you should get a little hint on which router you have, and probably also the model. If you don't know that, look on the router itself if you know where it is, and it should have a little sticker with type number or something like that. It should just be a little bit of research and you should hopefully find out which router you have. So if you have found your router, I'm just going to click one, click close on the thing here, just going to click a random router here, and then we have a little guide here. Now first of all it says static IP address, and this is really important. I have another link in the description where it explains how you can do that on your computer itself. But let me explain why you need the static IP address. I'm going to go back to my little diagram here. What we're basically telling the router with port forwarding is to, let's say we're just running port 25565. This is how you typically notate such a IP address. This is the IP address, colon, and then the port. This is what you would give out to your friend so he can play with you. Now we have to tell the router to forward all the traffic coming in on this address from your friend, for example, to transport that to your internal address, 25565, but on your internal address. So all the traffic coming in on this IP address and port should be redirected from your router to your PC on that port. That's basically what port forwarding is. So you're telling the router this address, this port, to that address and that port. But wait, this address normally doesn't stay the same, because I said the router gives out these addresses. Basically, once a device comes online, the device asks the router which address is free, or which address it can use, and then basically uses that address. Really simply explained here. But basically this address doesn't stay the same usually. It can change. So if that address changes, you have a problem, because then it doesn't work anymore. That's the reason why you need this address to be static, so it doesn't change. It means your PC always gets this address. That's what you need, because then it stays in line, it still works all the time. So there's a little guide there, but there's also another way you can do that, because you can also not only configured on your PC itself, but you can also configure it on the router. And you can do that basically via the MAC address, which is this thing right here. You can find that by going ipconfig in the command prompt and then entering /all, and you get a little bit more information. And you'll have to look under your same connection again. You have to look for physical address, and that's your MAC address right there. What you can tell the router to do then is tell it to reserve an IP address for this device with this MAC address. So you can say to the router, with this MAC address, I want it always to have this IP address, and then this whole thing stays in line. So you just have to see what you find the best way to do this. Do it on your computer with help of this little guide right here, or if you do it on the router itself. And I can give you a little pointer. Normally that is under DHCP, which is the protocol that gives out all those IP addresses to devices. Okay, now once you got the static IP address for your device, it's really simple now. You just follow this guide. You just enter this IP address which you have found under the default gateway, this IP address right here. And then you'll get to your router, as I said, and then you need username and password. On the side here, the default password is specified. Usually that's still the default, but if it has been changed, you need to ask someone who changed it. And if you don't know anything about that, you can also reset it. It's all pointed out right here. And now you'll need to find indeed the Portforward section, which is different on all routers. And this guide, you just follow the guide. And for the port, what you want to have is 25565, or if you want to use another port, it doesn't really matter, but you'll have to remember that port because we'll have to configure it in the Minecraft server as well. And just follow the guide. And what you basically have to do is, like I said, is tell the router to forward the traffic on this port to go to this IP address with that port. That's basically what you're doing. Alright, now once we got the Portforward all set up, we can finally install the Minecraft server. Now there are a lot of different options you can take. You can just take the vanilla Minecraft server, which is basically just the Minecraft server by Mojang, the official Minecraft server, which will have you a little advantage that updates are really fast, so you have the server updated as well at the same time as the game. You can also use community servers, which are, some examples are Spigot or Bucket, or what I use is Paper. Paper is really good because it's really optimized, and what I would recommend if you don't really care about updates on the same day basically as the game updates. It's more optimized, so yeah. I'm going to show you how you can download both of them. Let's start off with the vanilla Minecraft server, which is really easy. In your Minecraft launcher, if you go to installations and you go to the profile that you use, if you just want to use the latest release, which most of you should have, you can download the server file right here. And also that works if you have a profile like me here for 1.40.4. You can download the server for that specific version as well. So let's just click that, and it will take you to the download of that server. Alright, and also in the description we have the download space of Paper MC right here, which is the Paper server, which is a community server, which is, like I said, more optimized. To download that, just click on the latest build right here, and then you can download it as well. Alright, once you got the server downloaded of your choice, I'm just going to use vanilla right here because it's easy. What you want to do is just make a folder somewhere, I'm just gonna name that Minecraft server, and then we'll just drag the server into that, and open that up. So now we're going to make a little file that starts this Minecraft server, because double clicking it doesn't really work. So what we're gonna do is do the win key R thing again, like we did with CMD, but we're gonna enter Notepad and hit enter. Now you're going to have to copy a little thing from the description, a little piece of code. And this is the code, really simple. What this basically does is it runs Java and it opens this jar file, which is server.jar. If you have like paper or anything, just make sure this file name lines up with this file name right here. So it has to be the same. And then no GUI means you don't want basically the interface of the server, but just output it to the command prompt, which is really helpful. Now it's save as, and you want to navigate to the directory where this file is in as well, and then you want to set, this is really important, set the save as type to all files, and name this something along the lines of start and .bat. That's really important because it's a bat file, which is basically a command file. Alright, so time to double click this and see if it works. Well, on my system it doesn't work because I don't have Java installed. And most people should have Java installed, but if you don't, you have to make some modifications. What you basically can do, and what I would recommend you to do, instead of installing Java, just use the Java of the Minecraft launcher. And if it already comes up with the command prompt, you can skip ahead, of course. So to use the integrated Java of Minecraft, what you have to do is right click the Minecraft the Minecraft shortcut, and then open file location. And under the folder runtime, and then bin here, you can see we have Java right here. So what we basically have to do is click in this little thing here, this white area, and then you can copy this path right here. Just right click, copy, or Ctrl C, whatever you prefer. And we're going to go back to our little directory. We're going to edit this start.bat, right click and edit. What we want to do now is paste this path which you just copied, and then add a little backward slash, which is the same as this one. It should be to the left of your enter key, and otherwise you can just copy one of those and paste it right in there. And then what you want to add as well are these quotes, because there are spaces in the name, in the path right here, which doesn't go well. Now what you can do is save this again, and now it should work. Alright, as you can see, this is normal. It generated some files and it exited. Well, the reason for that is because you need to accept the EULA, or the end user license agreement. Just double click this, or if it doesn't open, I right click and say edit. Just open it in some kind of editor. I'm just using Notepad for simplicity. What you want to do here is really easy. Just replace the false by true, save this, and exit it out and run it again. And the first time, of course, takes longer because it needs to generate a new world. And the next time it will be a lot faster, of course. Alright, and then once it says done, your server is running. We'll do some configuration in a second. I'll show you how to do that, how you can customize your server. But you should be able to connect now. And you could see right up here, it's using the default port 25565. So that's why I told you to use that, because it's configured that way. Now, how do you connect to your server? Well, just go to multiplayer and add a server. And basically, anyone in the same home connected to the same router can and must also use this address, including 25565 in the colon. You can't use your external IP address, which you have to give to others from outside of your home/network to connect via the internet to your server. Alright, and once you enter the IP address and the port, you should see this and you should be able to join it. And others should also be able to join it using this external IP. And by the way you find this external IP address and how you can test that it is working, I'll show you that in a second. So yeah, as you can see, it's up the top says vanilla server, which is right, of course. But now what we can see is that I can't use commands because I'm not opt on this server. Well, how do we do that? Well, that's really easy. You can use this command prompt right here to type in commands, so you can do funny things like this, which I usually do. You can say things as the server, but we can also op players. So what you just do is basically you can enter commands without the slash, or if with the slash if you prefer. Just enter your username right here, and then you can see I'm now a server operator, and now I can switch my game mode. And that goes the same way for other people as well. You can also add a whitelist if you only want specific people to be able to connect to this server. Set the whitelist on, and you can add certain people to the whitelist add, and there you go. You can also kick and ban. That's really simple. You just specify the player and the name and the reason. And I can even kick myself. Now, how can you customize this? Because this isn't very interesting, is it, right? Well, we can do a lot of things. First of all, if you want to stop the server, that's really easy. Just do stop, and you can do this in the console or in game as well. And then it stops the server, and once it's done, this window should go away. Now we have a server.properties file here. And this is a little bit stupid because you can't edit it. There's no edit option here. So what we just want to do is go down here and open it with Notepad. You can tick this if you want or not, but now it always opens with Notepad. Alright, so in here you have a lot of options. For example, the default game mode, so I was in survival right there. You can set that to creative or whatever. You can set the difficulty if you would like to spawn monsters. If you want PvP to be enabled. If you want hardcore, there's all kinds of stuff here. I'll leave a link to the Minecraft wiki where you can find this out as well. If you wanted to use a different port, like the 25565, you can do that. Well, there's loads of stuff what you can do here. The thing where you're most likely interested in is this. A Minecraft server, that is this right here. So if you change that to something else, you can even use colors. I'll link some info on the wiki about colors, how you can use colors in here as well in the description, so you can check that out. Also here you can change the view distance. By default the server only renders 10 chunks, so if you set your Minecraft render distance higher, it's not going to do anything because the server doesn't basically transmit those chunks. So just save this file, and you can see if we start the server back up again that the message of the day has been changed to what you wanted. And you can do all kinds of cool things like colors and whatever you want. Now, how do you change this boring icon? Well, that's also really easy. Right here I have a pre-made server icon, my YH56 logo. As long as this is a square icon, and I believe it needs to be 64 by 64, but I think square will do as well, but this one is 64 by 64 and that works. It needs to be it needs to have the name server-icon.png, And if you dump that into the same folder as where your server is, and you restart the server, then you'll see the new logo right there. So that's, yeah, a bit about customization, and there's loads more you can do. But check the links in the description for that. Now for the last part of this video, how can we let others connect that are not in the same home? That's the real fun part of this. There's the last link in the description, canyouseeme.org. This will check if you have done the port forward correctly. And also right here, where this says nope, because I don't want you to know my public IP, there will be your IP address, which will be something similar to this one right here. Except you have to add the port yourself. And you can enter the port which you want the website to check, and make sure you have the server running. And if you click check port, it will tell you if it can access your server from outside of your network. And if that turns green, then you're good to go. Then you can basically just give this IP, which is right here, put a colon, and then enter the port after it, make it into like this kind of IP address, and give that to your friends. They can enter that in their Minecraft and connect to your server. And make sure you always have this running when you want to play, because otherwise it doesn't work. It's not a 24/7 thing. You have to keep this open, otherwise it's not going to work, because it runs on your computer. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll try my best as always to help you. If this was helpful, leave a like, subscribe for more tutorials and other content, and then I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.